Welcome back to the lesson. In our previous video, we've discussed about data types in Python, and in this video, we're going to be discussing about typecasting in Python. Typecasting is the process of converting from one data type to another by using the int, float, and string constructors. So as you can see, we have three different variables, x, y, and z, each storing data of different types. For x is storing an integer value, meaning a whole number, a number without decimal point, and y is storing a floating point number, a number with decimal point, a number with fractional part, while z is storing a string data type. For z right here, the 4 here is not seen as a number, but rather a character because it's wrapped within a quotation marks. And if I should go ahead and print each of this variable, let's say x, print x, run our program. As you can see, we have 1. Let's go ahead and print y, like so. We have 3.54. Okay, let's go ahead and print the last one, which is z, and we should have our full character. Okay, these are basically the values of our three variables, x, y, and z. And now let's go ahead and print the data type of each value. So you can see it right here. Remember, we can use the type function to check the data type of a variable. So let's go ahead and do that. Now within our print function, let's go ahead and call our type function. Type, like this, type of x. We wrap our variable inside the type function. And now let me go ahead and delete this once. So let's go ahead and check the data type of the variable x, which is an integer. So let's go ahead and run our program. As you can see, we have int right here. The data type of the variable x is int. Let's go ahead and check for the y, which is a floating point number. So let's go ahead and do this. Okay, now let's go ahead and run our program. As you can see, we have float. The data type of our variable y is float. And lastly, let's go ahead and check the data type of z, which should be string. Okay, now let's go ahead and say run. And as you can see, we have string right here. Our data type is string. So as I mentioned earlier, this video is about typecasting, meaning we're going to be changing the data type of a variable from one type to another using one of these constructor functions, int, float, and string. So now let's go ahead and start with the variable x. Now variable x is an integer value. Let's go ahead and check the value once again. As you can see, if you run, we have an integer value, int, right here. As you can see, int is an integer value. So now let's go ahead and try to convert the value from int to floating point number. Alright, now to convert our integer value into a floating point value, all we need to do is to go ahead and wrap our value within the float constructor function. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and say float, like so. Now, if we are to print the value of x, let's go ahead and first of all print the value of x, not the type. All right, now let's go ahead and say run. As you can see, now our value from 1, it has turned to 1.0, meaning a floating point value. Now, if you go ahead and check the type, like so, the type of x, now x is no longer an integer, but rather a floating point number. So let's go ahead and run our program. As you can see, we have float. So friend, this is basically how we convert from one data type to another. We simply call the constructor function of the value we are converting to and wrap our old data types or old value inside the constructor function of the new data type we're converting to. So this is basically how we do it. Alright, now let's go ahead and typecast the value of y from floating point number to integer. So to convert a floating point number into an integer, all we need to do is to go ahead and use the int function to wrap our floating point number. So let's go ahead and do that. Now let's go ahead and call our int constructor, wrap our floating point value. And now let's go ahead and print the value of x. Now x, let me actually go ahead and comment this. The value of x will be 3. Only because it's going to truncate. The int function is going to convert the decimal number into a whole number, meaning a number without a decimal, without any decimal point. Alright, now let me actually go ahead and add a comment for this one as well. Let's say now x will be equals to 1.0. Okay, and here as well should be y will be equals to 3. Okay, now let's go ahead and print the value of y. First of all, let's print the value y, and let's go ahead and run our program. We should be getting 3 because now our floating point number is now an integer value, a whole number, a number without decimal points. So let's go ahead and do that. Yes, as you can see, we have 3. Now we have successfully converted our floating point number into an integer data type. So let's go ahead and check the type. So let's go ahead and say type of y. Now it should be integer instead of float. So let's go ahead and check that. As you can see, now our y variable is now an integer data type. Alright, now let's go ahead and typecast the value of z. So let's go ahead and print the type of z again. So z is a string. Let's go ahead and run this. As you can see, by default is string because it's wrapped within a double quote. So let's go ahead and convert it to either float or int. So let's go ahead and convert it to float. Now let's go ahead and wrap it within the float constructor. So let's come over here and say float. Wrap our string value inside a float constructor. So now instead of printing the type, let's go ahead and print the value first. Now z has turned to a floating point number. We should be having 4.0. Okay, let's say now z is equals to 4.0, like so. And now let's go ahead and see for ourselves. Let's say print z, like so, and let's say run. As you can see, we have 4.0. Now we have successfully converted a string from a string data type to floating point number. And now let's go ahead and print the type of z. Let's go ahead and say type of z. Okay, we should have it. We should be having a float class. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Run. Yes, as you can see, now we have floating point number. Now the value of z has been successfully typecasted into a floating point number. So friend, this is actually all about typecasting in Python. We can go ahead and convert from one data type to another. Sometimes the need may arise for us to specify a data type for our variable, or to convert some specific variable data type into another data type. And I hope anytime the need arises for you to typecast or to convert from one data type to another in your Python development journey, it won't be an issue for you because you have watched this video, and I hope everything is clear to you. So friend, that will be it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.